Hey everyone, welcome to the distribution demo for July 13th, 2020. Today I'm going to be talking about Postgres version 12. So we dropped support for Postgres 10 at the end of the 12 cycles. So we started supporting Postgres 11 and 13.0 and GitLab 13.0. And Postgres is already up to version 13, I think. So we're starting to roll in Postgres 12 support. So Hussein has this issue you can see on the left side of my screen here, which is the first step. Actually, the first step was me testing out GitLab against external Postgres 12 instance. So I did that a couple weeks ago. And now we're getting it into Omnibus proper. So this is scheduled for release in 13.2. And then in 13.3, we'll be focusing on upgrades and support for Geo and HA. So without further ado, on the right side of my screen here, I've got just a simple Vagrant project that launches a Ubuntu Focal, so a 20.04 instance, and then installs this Omnibus package from Hussein's branch here. So I'm gonna do Vagrant up. So I'm actually kind of showing off two changes here. One, we're adding support for Ubuntu 20.04 and 13.2, and we're also adding support for installing Postgres 12 via Omnibus for new installs. So while we're waiting for Vagrant to go, I took a look at the change logs for Ubuntu and Postgres and just kind of want to highlight some things that I think might affect us or our users. But feel free to chime in on any of these, or if you'd like to add some context as I go through. So it looks like there are several performance improvements in Postgres 12. There's re-indexing without blocking writes. There's just-in-time compilation is now on by default. There are improvements to the query parallelism. Partitioning should speed up quite a bit because working with partition tables, inserts and copies into them will be a lot faster, and attaching partitions no longer blocks concurrent queries on the partition table. So those are some performance improvements. Otherwise, there's some new authentication features which may be interesting. Encrypting TCP IP traffic with GSS API auth. Not sure if that's something we want to look into or not, but also discovering LDAP servers. So this would be for bigger enterprise users using DNS SRV records. And then I think the one that popped out to me was multi-factor authentication now. So you can set client cert to verify full and then specify an additional method in the PG HBA.conf initial authentication method. So I think overall we'll see performance improvements from Postgres 12. I'm not sure if we have done like specific research on that or not. I know there's been a lot of work going into checking out newer versions of Postgres. So that's what I had for that. If anybody wants to chime in, specifically how they think users might benefit from Postgres 12, feel free. I'll let Vagrant go for a minute.
Just one comment. We did some performance testing, QE did some performance testing for Postgres 11, and I did leave a comment on one of the Postgres 12 issues about getting the same performance testing done for Postgres 12. I'm not sure what their capacity is to get that done though.
Okay, thank you. So we're just waiting for the Vagrant machine to boot now. It's pretty fast to install GitLab after that. I did notice it takes longer to boot the focal or the 2804 machine than the 1804 machine. Haven't figured that out yet. But here we go. All right, so while it's installing and configuring GitLab, I'll talk through the things I saw in Ubuntu 2004. It might be most interesting to us. So the Linux kernel is being updated to 5.4. So a couple updates. Well, of course, there's security updates in this, as with any other kernel update. But it also includes this kernel lockdown mode, which is kind of a way of saying root is just another user and maybe it should be able to modify kernel files. I'm not sure if this will affect us or not, but I would expect some of our users to be turning it on. Another one in 2004 is that Python 3 is now the default. So we've had quite a few issues that various people have been working on to update our code base to Python 3. And so when we were testing out Ubuntu 2004, it just worked because we had put it on that work beforehand. So that was great. Another one is that Ruby will be updated to 2.7 by default. We're currently on Ruby 2.6. We have updated to that recently. So this might be a prompt for us to try to move to 2.7. I'm not sure how stable 2.7 is right now. I haven't worked with it, but it's there. Another item is the instance metadata service. So this is AWS specific. This is being updated to V2. I looked into it a little bit, and it looks like they will be supporting V1 of the service for a while. But this might be something to keep in mind of down the road, that this metadata service will be updated to V2. I assume we're using this because it's really valuable on AWS. And then the final thing I had for Ubuntu 2004 was that SSH will now support hardware-based two-factor authentication. So I don't think that will affect us. It might with Gitly or something if users turn it on, but in general, I think that's a positive change. Does anybody else have any thoughts on Ubuntu 2004, specifically in the context of GitLab?
I think the root lockdown will be an interesting one to keep in mind, at least, as I anticipate that probably will have issues with our sysctl command and its changes. Likely similar to what we see in Docker, but there might be some change or awareness we have to around that.
Mm-hmm. All right, it looks like our run is finishing up here on the right, so I should be able to load the instance here on the left. Set a password. Okay, so as with anything, I'll create a new project just as a smoke test. All right. Okay, that looks good. And then checking in the admin area, we've got Postgres 12.3. So it looks to be working fine. Like I said before, this is just for fresh installs, so we're not doing upgrades or downgrades. I tested this out a little earlier, changing the version back to 11 after 12, and Chef runs like it's doing, or it actually doesn't do anything, and then you still have Postgres 12, but that's to be expected at this stage. Okay, well, that's all I had for today. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns before we leave it? All right, thanks for attending, everyone.
Thanks.